Folks, she literally can't make it any easier for her teammates if she tried. She couldn't make it any easier for her teammates if she tried. She is literally handing them free baskets. She's giving them free points.
That is the entire argument in one sequence. Caitlin Clark is creating the easy opportunity. The defense is already beaten, and somehow the possession still ends with nothing. The question is how much those empty possessions are actually costing her.
Channel, that would mean so much to me. Caitlin Clark this season. Most double-doubles in a season by a guard. 14 her rookie season, 11 this year, through 83 games. Shout out to Park Mudun. Through 83 games, Caitlin Clark has the most 20-point, 10-assist games in a single WNBA season in history. The most 20-point, 10-assist games in a single season in WNBA history.
Because according to the numbers highlighted here, this is no longer just about Clark having a good stretch. The case being made is that she is piling up playmaking records at a pace the league has rarely seen from a guard. 14 double-doubles in the season, multiple 20-point, 10-assist performances, and production that is already pushing her into historical territory. But records only tell part of this story. Assists are one of the strangest statistics in basketball because the passer controls the creation, but somebody else controls whether the statistic actually appears in the box score. Clark can beat the first defender, manipulate the help defender, throw the ball exactly where it needs to go, and still receive absolutely nothing statistically if the shot misses. That becomes important when people start comparing MVP candidates using raw numbers. The box score says 10 assists. The film might say something completely different. And later, there is one number from this game that exposes exactly how large that difference can become.
She's gonna put a wild gap between her and second place when it comes to the record books. Since the All-Star break, Caitlin Clark's averaging 24.9, 9.4 assists per game on 50, 40, 83. 3 made threes per game. Yeah, those look like MVP numbers to me. Definitely surpassed Olivia and Paige. And even Kelsey Mitchell, not even a question.
Now look at what happens when the efficiency rises with the passing. The stretch quoted here has Clark at 24.9 points and 9.4 assists, while shooting roughly 50% from the field, 40% from 3, and 83% at the line. Whether those exact percentages hold across the entire season is less important than what this stretch represents. The scoring and playmaking are starting to arrive together. That changes the MVP conversation dramatically. Early in Clark's career, there was always an obvious counter-argument. Yes, the passing was spectacular, but what about turnovers? Yes, the range was ridiculous, but what about efficiency? Yes, she generated enormous attention, but could she translate all of that into complete winning basketball? When those weaknesses shrink, the comparison gets uncomfortable for everybody else. Because an elite scorer can dominate one possession, an elite passer can dominate the decisions of all 5 defenders. Clark's biggest advantage is that she is increasingly capable of doing both. Defenses cannot simply hug the three-point line because she can attack the gap. They cannot aggressively blitz every screen because she will hit the release valve. They cannot casually switch because she will hunt the mismatch. And once the defense starts rotating, that is when Indiana gets the chances you just watched. The irony is that the better Clark becomes at creating those chances, the more obvious every wasted one becomes.
Folks, we have a clip from last night's game. I told you she could have done it. It could have been a 30 and 20 game. I told you it could have been 30 points, 20 assists. But we had to do that. This.
And now Cunningham beats everyone back.
This is where the frustration begins. The commentary argues that Clark's stat line could have been dramatically bigger, and then immediately shows Sophie Cunningham beating everybody down the floor and failing to finish. One missed layup by itself means nothing. Every basketball player misses layups. Superstars miss layups. Centers miss dunks. Nobody plays a perfect game. But MVP debates are built on accumulation. One missed finish removes one assist. Another bobbled pass removes another. A missed transition basket removes another. Spread that across dozens of possessions, and suddenly the difference between 10 assists and 14 assists is not necessarily 4 bad passes from Clark. It might be 4 possessions where she already completed the difficult part and the final touch simply failed. That distinction matters because the MVP debate is going to become increasingly statistical as the season gets tighter. People will compare points, assists, rebounds, efficiency, team record, advanced metrics, head-to-head performances, and nobody adds a column saying beautiful passes that should have become baskets.
Clark, backdoor. Mitchell Mitchell can't finish. Offensive rebound. Second
Front line of Indiana.
Clark finds Mitchell.
Well done.
Here's Clark on Becker's on the other end. Cut off there by Page. Tips it on the drive. Puts on the brakes. A couple of months. Clark muscles her way inside. Off the screen.
Watch the variety here. Backdoor action. Transition opportunities. Mitchell getting downhill. Clark moving defenders before delivering the ball. These are not all identical passes from the same spot on the floor. Indiana is generating openings in different ways because Clark forces defenses to react before she even releases the basketball. That is the part casual box score comparisons miss. Clark's value is not simply the number beside the word assists. Her value is the defensive chain reaction that happens before the assist is even possible. The first defender is worried about the three. The second defender is preparing for the drive. A weak side defender takes one extra step toward the paint because Clark has already shown she can find the cutter. Suddenly somebody else has a clean lane. If that teammate finishes, everybody sees Clark's assist. If that teammate misses, Clark's influence disappears from the traditional stat sheet even though the defense was broken exactly the same way. And that is why evaluating playmakers strictly by recorded assists can become misleading. A pass cannot become an assist until another player converts it. The scorer owns her points. The rebounder largely owns her rebounds. The passer has to share custody of the assist.
And these blown layups are sabotaging her MVP case. Were they more egregious last night than other nights? Sure. But this still takes place many times in other nights. If you guys made half of these, Caitlin Clark's walking out there with 14 assists. She's leaving the game with 14, 15 assists if you guys just make half of these.
There is the accusation in its strongest form. These blown opportunities are hurting Clark's MVP case. Sabotaging is obviously dramatic language. Her teammates are not intentionally trying to damage anybody's award chances. They are trying to score. But statistically, the effect described here is real in a narrower sense. If an open shot created by Clark does not go in, Clark cannot receive the assist. And imagine how different the national conversation sounds if several of those chances are converted every night. 10 assists becomes 13, 11 becomes 15. A strong double-double suddenly looks historic. A 24-point 10-assist performance becomes a 24-point 15-assist performance. And now every sports show is leading with it. That is not merely cosmetic. Huge assist totals change how voters perceive offensive control. There is also a team component. Converting those opportunities means more points without asking Clark to shoot more. It rewards the defense for committing extra attention to her. It makes trapping her more dangerous. It forces opponents to reconsider how aggressively they can load up against Indiana's primary creator. And once a defense becomes afraid to help, Clark gets more room herself. That is the hidden loop here. Better finishing from teammates does not only increase Clark's assists, it can eventually increase her scoring opportunities too, because defenses become less comfortable abandoning everyone else.
And this is just the missed layups. This is even showing all the times that it landed in somebody's lap and they fumbled the ball out of bounds. Every time it landed in somebody's lap and they couldn't catch it and it got taken by somebody else. This is literally just layups. She is setting her teammates up beautifully. You guys got to capitalize on that. We got to capitalize on that.
And notice the distinction being made in this clip. The complaint is not limited to missed shots. There are passes that reach a teammate and never become an attempt because the ball gets mishandled, knocked away, or carried out of bounds. Those possessions are even harder to capture statistically. A missed layup at least creates a field goal attempt. A pass that gets fumbled can make the entire creation disappear, as though the opportunity never existed. This is where film becomes necessary. If you're evaluating Clark against another elite guard, you cannot simply place their assist totals beside each other and declare the higher number the better playmaker. You have to ask what kinds of shots they are producing. How often are teammates receiving the ball at the rim? How many defenders did the passer force to rotate? How many possessions created an advantage before breaking down later? That doesn't automatically make Clark the MVP. Awards still involve scoring, efficiency, defense, availability, and winning. Aya Wilson, for example, brings an entirely different defensive and rebounding impact from the front court. Other guards can make legitimate cases based on their own production, but if Clark's supporters want the strongest version of her argument, this is it. Judge the quality of the offense she creates, not only the final assist total that survives the possession. And now we get to the statistic teased earlier.
Caitlin assists tonight, 10. Caitlin's potential assists tonight, 8. This is every damn game they sell Caitlin Clark assists. Practice your damn layups already. You're supposed to be professional basketball players. Wow. Greatest rim creator in history. Yeah. Caitlin Clark would legit average over 20 assists.
10 assists recorded. 8 additional potential assists, according to the figure presented in the video. That is the number. Even if you do not assume every one of those opportunities should have been converted, the gap is enormous. Convert only half, and the official 10 becomes 14. 14 assists attached to this kind of scoring night completely changes the headline. That is why this discussion has become so heated. Some fans hear complaints about missed shots and immediately think Clark's teammates are being used as scapegoats. And there is a fair warning there. Basketball is not played in a laboratory. A pass can arrive slightly late. A defender can recover. A player can be forced into an awkward angle. Not every potential assist is equivalent to an uncontested practice layup. Clark also makes mistakes. Every high-volume creator does. She will occasionally throw a pass too hard, lead somebody into traffic, or gamble on a window that is not really available. That's part of playing aggressively. But there is a difference between refusing to blame Clark for anything and acknowledging what the film is showing. When the same creator repeatedly puts teammates within a few feet of the basket, finishing becomes part of the evaluation. Indiana does not need perfection. It needs enough conversion to punish defenses for sending extra bodies at Clark. And when the salaries and expectations around professional women's basketball are rising, the standard rises with them. More investment brings more attention brings harsher scrutiny. Fundamentals that once might have produced a quick groan now become clips replayed millions of times. That pressure is not going away.
Hell, how are you ladies making between $400,000 and $1.6 million a year, and we're still having problems with the most basic of fundamentals? Inside leg, outside arm, inside leg, outside arm. It ain't hard. Kiss it off the glass. Don't throw it off the glass. It's just a layup drill.
The opening rant makes that pressure explicit. If professional players are earning major money, the expectation is that basic finishes have to become routine. The salary figures thrown around in commentary can vary dramatically depending on whether someone is talking league salary, endorsements, bonuses, or total compensation. So those numbers should not all be treated as identical. But the broader point is much harder to dispute. Women's basketball is entering an era with more money, more sponsorship attention, and more scrutiny attached to every performance. That means viewers are going to judge the product differently. You cannot simultaneously ask fans to treat the WNBA like a major professional league and then act surprised when they analyze mistakes the way they would analyze mistakes in the NBA. That does not mean abusing players online. It means the basketball itself gets examined seriously. If a guard repeatedly misses open three-pointers, people will talk about it. If a center repeatedly loses rebounds, people will talk about it. And if players repeatedly fail to convert high-quality chances at the rim, people will talk about that too. Clark's presence magnifies everything because so many possessions begin with her drawing attention. Her passes become highlight clips, which means the missed finishes attached to those passes become highlight clips too. Success raises the microscope.
Through her 83 games, she has 30 double-doubles. I'm assuming 30 points and assists double-doubles, most in WNBA history. And then we look at Caitlin Clark being celebrated by the Indiana Fever. 20th career game with 20 points, 10 assists. No other player in WNBA history has more than 10, and she's only in year 3.
Now put the career pace beside the missed opportunities. The video credits Clark with 30 double-doubles through 83 games and says she has already reached 20 career games with at least 20 points and 10 assists, twice the total of anyone else in league history, according to the graphic being discussed. That is why every additional converted possession carries such unusual historical weight. Clark is not chasing ordinary guard numbers. She is already being measured against records. If the gap between first and second is growing this early, then improving Indiana's finishing around her could push some of these records into territory that becomes difficult for another guard to reach. And that is bigger than an MVP trophy. An MVP argument lasts one season. Records shape how a career is remembered. Years from now, nobody watching a database will see the pass that hit a teammate's hands before bouncing out of bounds. They will see the official total. That's what makes this stretch fascinating. We could be watching one of the most productive passing careers in league history, while simultaneously watching possessions disappear from that career's statistical record every night. There is no conspiracy involved. It is simply how assists work. The creator can do 90% of the job and receive zero credit if the final 10% fails.
Folks, you know we wouldn't even be having these MVP conversations if Caitlin Clark's teammates finish around the rim at an efficient clip. Just an efficient clip. You don't got to be perfect. But if I'm paying you 6 to 7 figures, that's the least I could ask for, right?
And now the MVP question finally becomes unavoidable. The argument in this clip is straightforward. If Clark's teammates convert at merely an efficient rate around the rim, the comparison with other candidates becomes dramatically harder. Consider the hypothetical offered here. One player gives you 26 points and 10 rebounds. Clark gives you 21 points and 12 assists. Which production actually creates more offense? That cannot be answered perfectly by multiplying assists by 2, because basketball is more complicated than that. Some assists create threes. Some baskets would have happened without an exceptional pass. Rebounds can end defensive possessions and create transition chances. Defense matters enormously, especially when comparing a guard with an elite two-way front-court player like A'ja Wilson. But the question reveals why Clark's profile is so unusual. 12 assists can directly create somewhere around 24 or more points depending on the shot distribution. Add her own scoring and suddenly her fingerprints are on a massive percentage of Indiana's offense. And that still does not measure the possessions where the pass creates a foul, the hockey assist that produces the final pass, or the defensive attention that frees somebody before Clark ever touches the ball again. This is the strongest version of her MVP argument. It is not that everybody else is terrible. It is not that Clark deserves the award automatically because she is popular. It is that her offensive influence can exceed what her already impressive box score shows. But there is also a requirement attached to that argument. Indiana has to win enough games for voters to care. Historically, MVP conversations reward outrageous individual production much more comfortably when it translates into team success. If Indiana converts these chances, Clark gets more assists and the Fever get more points. Those two things strengthen the same argument simultaneously. That is why the missed layups matter beyond internet frustration. They can affect both sides of her resume.
Boom. Now here we go. Ready? Is that a great pass? No. Is that a pass that somebody who makes $850,000 a year should catch? You bet your fucking ass it's a pass that somebody who makes $850,000 a year should catch. Monique Billings, you get paid 800 grand. I don't give a damn if it's not right in your chest. Catch the damn ball.
This possession is a perfect example of why the debate needs some nuance. The commentator admits the pass is not perfect. That matters. Clark is not entitled to an assist simply because she threw the ball toward a teammate. But professional basketball is filled with imperfect passes that still need to be caught. Players are moving at full speed. Passing windows open for fractions of a second. Sometimes the choice is not between a perfect chest pass and a difficult pass. The choice is between throwing the difficult pass immediately or losing the opportunity completely. That is especially true with Clark, because she sees openings before they fully develop. Her greatest passes often look risky precisely because she releases them so early. She is betting that the teammate will arrive at the same conclusion a half second later. When that synchronization works, it looks genius. When the teammate is not ready, it can look reckless. That tension has followed great playmakers forever. The more ambitious the passer, the more responsibility both players carry. Clark has to deliver something catchable. The receiver has to anticipate that the ball can arrive from angles and at speeds that might not feel normal. Chemistry turns those difficult passes into routine offense. And chemistry takes repetition. So there is actually a positive way to read the missed opportunities too. If Indiana is already generating this many chances while still leaving obvious points on the floor, the offense may have another level available without Clark needing to become a different player. The improvement could come simply from everyone becoming better connected to what she already does.
Clark comes alive down the home stretch. And here we are coming down the home stretch. This is a lot like what we saw rookie year. Like, all right, man, all right, I'm done playing with you. I'm done playing with you ladies. The whole first half of the season was just a warm-up. I'm done. Let me bust your ass now. And Caitlin Clark's busting your ass. But Ben!
That brings us to the real payoff. The most important development is not one missed layup, one box score, or even one MVP comparison. It is the possibility that Clark is entering the stage where the game is slowing down for her, while everything around her is speeding up. The commentary describes the first half of the season almost like a warm-up. Dramatic phrasing, obviously, but watch the underlying idea. When a player with Clark's passing ability starts shooting efficiently at the same time, defenses begin running out of comfortable answers. Play her straight up and she can create the shot herself. Send help and she can find the open teammate. Trap high and she can release the ball before the trap closes. Switch and she can manipulate the mismatch. Drop the big defender and she can walk into deep threes or force that defender backward before hitting the roller. Every option asks the defense to surrender something. That is where the teammates become decisive. If Indiana punishes those surrendered openings, opponents eventually have to reduce the amount of attention they send toward Clark. If they reduce the attention, Clark gets easier scoring opportunities. If they keep sending the attention, her teammates keep receiving high-value chances. That is the offensive cycle elite playmakers are trying to create. And that, more than any individual stat, is why the MVP conversation could shift so dramatically down the stretch. Clark does not necessarily need to average 30 points. She may not need to chase every scoring title. Her path is controlling the entire geometry of the game. The more defenders she forces into impossible choices, the more valuable she becomes. The challenge for Indiana is proving that the team can consistently complete those possessions. Because if those open layups start falling, the debate changes immediately. Clark's assists rise. Indiana's offensive efficiency rises. The Fever's chances of winning rise. Defenses have to reconsider their coverage. Clark receives more space. And suddenly several weaknesses in the MVP resume improve at the same time. That is why the misses feel larger than ordinary misses. They are sitting at the intersection of individual history and team success. And there is one more uncomfortable truth. Clark's teammates are also going to benefit enormously if they solve this. Playing beside an elite creator can produce some of the easiest scoring opportunities of a player's career. Better finishing means better numbers for them, better team results, and more possessions where everyone looks good. This does not have to become Clark versus her teammates. The best version of the story is Clark and her teammates becoming devastating together. That is the standard Indiana should be chasing. Not perfection. Conversion. Make the defense pay for committing 2 defenders to 1 player. Catch the passes that are catchable. Finish the openings created at the rim. Turn offensive advantages into actual points. If that begins happening consistently, then we will finally get the cleanest possible version of the MVP comparison. Clark's case will no longer require people to explain how many assists disappeared through missed opportunities. The box score itself will start showing more of what the film already reveals. And then voters have a very difficult decision. Are you giving the award to the player with the biggest traditional scoring and rebounding numbers? Or to the player who may be controlling more total offense through scoring and creation? That is the choice. So tell me where you stand. If Caitlin Clark keeps producing at this level and Indiana starts converting the chances she is creating, does she deserve the MVP over the rest of the field? Or does someone like A'ja Wilson still have the stronger overall case? Drop your answer in the comments, like the video if you enjoyed the breakdown, and subscribe for the next one.